Welcome to Mam's Talk, where Mam's Talk Survivor. Episode 3, we're starting to get to the nitty-gritty here. Dominic is the third out. We will be speaking to him later. Really excited about that. Jess, how are you feeling about episode 3?
I thought this was a really good episode. This was my favorite one so far. I think the swap really adds an interesting dynamic to the situation, which am excited to talk about. I don't know if you feel the same, but
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Swap in general is really exciting, but this early in the game is really interesting to do it like after only two vote offs. Like, what's the impact of that?
yeah, I was definitely as a player surprised to have a swap come this early. I was not
Hmm.
mentally prepared for that. We like spent the entire round prior kind of setting up shop for the aces going forward, and then it
Hmm.
turned out that a swap was coming our way. But I felt like this is where the game really starts from my perspective because the original aces had never gone to tribal, so by swapping, more people were actually having to start gaming, and people who had been gaming the whole time were able to kind of have the power seat of not having to go to tribal, so it changes up the dynamic.
Yeah, I feel like this is like kind of where the game separates the boys from the men, if you will.
Hmm.
Not referring to the Boys Alliance, of course. But it's just like you have your plans. Now everything's getting scrambled. How are you going to adapt to that? You
Right. Yeah.
know?
This is where the adaptability part comes into play because you can try to set yourself up all you want, but if you can't handle the unexpected twists that are coming, then you're gonna find out quickly that you can't.
Yeah, and I feel like we see that with Dom
Yeah, for
here
sure.
because like he has a good plan. Like, keeping that core group from Rochester together is a great idea, although maybe kind of boring,
Yeah.
um, for a standard game where there's no swaps happening. Like, cool, you have a really strong alliance to go into the merge, but now you're all separated and you're left with Max and Joe, who you haven't built that strong of connections with. Even though Max is part of your alliance, like we don't see him doing a lot of the groundwork to make him feel very comfortable, clearly.
Yeah, for sure. Dom totally like gets bit in the butt by his lack of being able to maintain relationships with the like lower tier, quote unquote, of his
Hmm.
alliance. Like he's playing this mob boss game and he clearly has his right hand man is Grant. And then he's obviously closely working with Liz and Caroline. But now that only Caroline is with him, he really only has one person on his side that he can guarantee is going to vote with him. And even Caroline wanted to turn on him pretty quickly. She just ended up not really being in the loop of the plan against him. But I don't think that he even really had her as strongly as he was hoping that he
Hmm.
would. So he kind of ended up with the like three people that he had the least sway on.
Hmm.
You know.
I also think it's really interesting that like Caroline's like, Joe's gonna flip. And he's like, no.
Right. Like what makes you think that Joe wouldn't flip? I mean,
Like,
like obviously, he's none the wiser to this whole little wild man rant that was all of last episode, but
sure,
like,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that Joe was screaming loyalty before that. So,
Right. I think he was thinking about it really like on paper, which was just like we have the numbers 4-3.
yeah, I think that that's honestly like I've been guilty of that in the past. I think that that's a really easy mistake to make is like assuming that, oh, our alliance, quote unquote, has X amount of numbers and your alliance has less. But like logistically, someone's gonna try to flip someone. So you have to be prepared for like all the possibilities of like campaigning in various different directions or people who've been harboring grudges that you haven't been thinking about.
Which I mean, yeah, who how could he have known
Yeah,
to
how
the
could he?
extent that the grudge was being held? But I will say I feel like um this also speaks to like kind of the nurture part of this game too. The nature Joe's got down.
Yeah.
But you have to really like feed those relationships so that people like feel good about you. And
For sure.
um, he wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I think it's like again very easy to think about like, oh well, I've been, on paper I've been loyal and I've been on your side or whatever, but if you're not making enough of a like social impact, it just generally makes people less likely to trust you, like if you don't feed to their like emotional sensibilities or like
Yeah.
their personal side, because you can be like as logistically trustworthy as you want, but if you're not making someone feel good about your vibe, then they're more like
Yeah.
on you.
Because honestly, like, I think for a lot of people on the tribe, like, getting rid of you is maybe the better bet. I mean,
Mhm.
who is that better for? I have my own thoughts, but you let me know.
Um, well, it's hard for me to say. I think that,
Because you're you.
yeah, but I think that like a big topic of conversation in this episode is like shields and threats, and
Hmm.
those people are, and there's a big perception of the threats being, me, you, Allie, Caroline. CJ's mentioned at one point as a big threat. Joe's mentioned at one point as a big threat. So
Yeah.
mean, and then there's a whole lot of conversation about like what is good for those people, and is that getting rid of a winner or is that keeping a winner around so that that person's more likely to go when we have to turn on each other. And I would personally think that it was a little bit too early for those big threats to want to get rid of me. I don't really think it
Hmm.
benefits them. I don't really think that I have much agency in the tribe game. I think that once you get to the merge is when you can really start to think about wanting those big threats gone, rather than like, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem, I don't really know what benefit you get from me going, considering I'm like we're playing the tribe game right now, but I definitely think for Dom it was the best move for me to leave.
That is true.
So you being on exile this round, how did that like feel for you? Because I mean, you're missing this like it's kind of the same as being on exile the first round of the game a little bit, because you're missing the chance to like make bonds with the people that you haven't had a chance to work with yet. I think you're a little bit lucky because some of those people happen to be people who are very close friends with you in general. So I think
Yeah.
you're like, you know, Dom's obviously gone, but like when you come back next round, I feel like you're not going to have too hard of a time making connections with Max and Caroline. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's kind of
That's
lucky.
true.
But just in general, I still am curious what that was feeling like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had my own plans for the swap. I was pretty happy with how the swap went, first of all.
Me too.
The group, I mean, like I was very glad that like you, Allie and Caroline were there specifically. I was like, that is a great group. I feel like we could like get something going. So I feel like I really had plans to go link and create with Caroline. So then when you guys left out the vote, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that next episode, obviously. But yeah, I really wanted to get Joe and Caroline. I think that was my big uh goal for the swap. And then yeah, I was sent away, so I had no control of like what the foundations of that swap tribe were.
Right.
So and we'll
Right.
see how I adapt when I come back.
Yeah, because Dom mentions it while he's voting. He's like, this is a very important vote. And it's like, it is because it's setting the tone for what this tribe looks like going forward. And like us choosing to get rid of Dom really does set the tone for what's to come.
Yeah, for sure.
And you don't have agency over that. Like maybe you would have wanted,
Right.
maybe, and I don't know. What are, I mean, how you could tell me if I'm wrong, I guess, but like
Mhm.
maybe you wanted to work with Dom. You know what I mean? Like
No.
I
No.
figured, I figured
No, thank you.
he was
Like
being,
I'm not saying like never
yeah.
ever, but like in that particular scenario with that group of people, no.
So you approved of the decision.
Yeah.
Was it the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
case
yeah.
scenario for you that he left?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
especially after hearing what was like happening. like and like obviously now I have like the footage and
Yeah.
stuff, like yes, getting rid of like that the spearhead of, whatever was going on with the AQ crew, I think was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that theoretically made sense for me at least, and I think I would maybe extend that to you as well, just because we were kind of playing from a similar place. I think like we didn't have the best relationship with CJ. So if we had wanted
Yes.
to, you know, start,
That's I think that's the
yeah,
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
if we had wanted to start completely changing up the tribal lines, then I think CJ would have been probably the alternative choice for me at least.
Yeah,
I don't think we would have been able to get Allie on board for a CJ vote necessarily, but who's to say we couldn't get Dom on board? I don't know, but it's a whole lot of what ifs, but I just wouldn't have wanted anyone besides Dom or CJ to go that round, I don't think.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah, it definitely would have still worked with CJ
Mm.
in that first vote, but I think the only thing honestly I would have done differently is I would have looped Caroline in.
Yeah, I
Just
didn't
for like build like again that nurture or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't trust her to not tell him that he was, and I
But
was the other
also I don't care.
name.
Tell him
Yeah, but with the shot in the dark, I was the other
what.
name. How was I supposed to?
That's true. I mean, for you,
I was
whatever.
gonna say you're thinking about you, but for me,
I'm thinking about me.
I couldn't tell her because of
Yeah.
that. I knew that
Yeah.
I was going to be the other name because you were
Very,
gone.
very fair.
So, because it was clear once you were gone that it was me. Like they were hoping that it would
Sure.
be me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that's how I felt at least. Like once the new aces decided that OK is going to exile,
Yeah.
like the writing was on the wall that they were at least
Mm-hmm.
hoping that they would vote me out. So that way we'd be
Mm-hmm.
separated because that is clearly everyone's first priority is to separate the two of us, which is
Yeah.
fair. But
And let me tell you, we are the talk of the town.
I know.
I'm not even involved in the vote. People are
I
talking
know
about me.
you're mentioned so many times as part of like
Oh
this
my God.
group or whatever, but
But
I
I'm
you're
listen, I'm sitting pretty because I am not paying rent in all of their heads.
exactly.
I have a lot of disposable income.
Yeah, and look, and guess what? Guess who's still here at the end of the day? The two of
Oh,
us.
boom, bang, boom. Yeah,
So
but I mean, it's a lot to think about though, because like, what would have happened if, first of all, what would have happened if we would have got separated? Um, would they have tried to like, would it have been as intense, do you think, of like those two?
if we had been separated at the beginning of the game, or
Or just for the swap, like, do you think people still would have been like, we
yeah,
have to like do
yeah,
all this?
because like even if you're thinking about the aces conversation, they're basing their vote for like the next time they go to tribal based on who is still in the game after our tribal. Like they're like if
Yeah.
Dom is still here, it's Liz. Or like if Dom is still here, it's Grant. Because like
Mm,
those are the connections that they know are there. And
right.
then like they're
That's
they're
true.
they're wary of Gabby because Joe is on the other tribe. Like they're very
Hmm.
aware of the connections, even from people who didn't even start on the same tribe. Like Gabby and Joe have never been on the same tribe, and they're still wary of that connection.
That's fair.
I think that that is, and I think that people put more stock in that than they should, just because
Hmm.
I have always been pretty adamant that the personal relationships don't matter as much as people make them out to. And I think that they kind of
Yeah.
potentially block like possible pathways for a lot of people if they're like really writing off these people because of their relationships. Um, for example, like a lot of people were really wary to work with Roos and GMAC unless Olivia was voted out.
Hmm.
And like perhaps that was a bit, overly cautious.
Hmm.
Well, we won't know that because Olivia went first, but I think that people tend to be a little bit too cautious of those kinds of relationships.
Right. And it's like I feel like the strongest connections in this, like our version of the game has not been the people who are like closest in real life for the
I'd
most
agree. I
part.
think that people often actually have a hard time working with the people that they're closest with because they know them very well and they have a hard time like using them as a game piece because of the emotional aspect of it, which I think a lot of people struggle with.
Mm.
So I actually think that it's misguided to completely base who you're voting off on based on the prior connections that they have. I mean, obviously there's some validity in it because like I think that there is an aspect of like they'll never be able to cut their significant other because like then the
Says who?
well, because then the emotions will get too real, like I
Sure.
think that
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
sort of what people,
For
so I think,
some people, I think that's true.
and I think that is true and valid to consider, but I think that that's really not something you need to necessarily think about until like the late game. Like at
I
least,
also just think it's like an easy like
yeah.
sell, you
Well, that's the
know.
other thing is I think people often will ride that like a bit harder than they actually believe because they just want a reason to like vote out somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I did it last episode
I
with
was gonna
Gaddy.
say,
I don't actually give a shit about
yeah,
her and Joe,
right.
but
I've
yeah.
done that in the past as well. Like it's a really easy like way to just get things to happen the way that you want them to happen. So by all
Hmm.
means, use it as a game piece. But if you are playing, I would be wary to rely too much on that prior relationship.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, so yeah, I mean, do we want to talk about my exile journey?
Yes, I was wondering what your thoughts about that were because you came oh so close to finishing the puzzle in a devastating loss.
Yeah, that was kind of stinky.
So wait, my question for you was, did you know what you were building? Like, did you know it was the fire puzzle? Because like,
I figured it out, but also like I know what the
no, I
fire
know.
puzzle is.
Well, so
I don't think that like Nick knew what he was building.
that was why I asked because I know for a fact Nick didn't know what he was building. Like he didn't know what the end goal was. So it took him about like a good portion of the time to even figure out what he was aiming for. So I
Hmm.
guess that was my question of like how quickly did you figure out you were making fire? Like immediately?
Um, yeah, once I dumped out the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, because it was called what was it called?
The
What was
fire to keep yourself safe. I initially thought I was gonna be making a
making
fire.
fire? Yeah.
Um,
Just
which
fair.
I yeah, which I was like, oh, that's fun. Like I'll make a fire, sure. But then yeah, I saw the puzzle piece. I
Yeah.
was like, got
As
it.
the middle.
But
So that probably
yeah,
helped you.
like kind of.
Yeah.
But this is also the harder version of that
Yeah.
puzzle. There's an easier version where you get to like see the face of it, so you can
Mm,
kind of like put the pieces together a little
yeah.
bit easier. Whereas this one is like all one solid color,
Right. Because
so
it's
that
like a
made it hard. And the front and the back are the same color. um so I think that was a challenge. I mean, we don't have to talk about like the intricacies of the puzzle too much, but
no,
it was hard.
I just was curious if you think that knowing what you were building benefited you.
I think so, to an
Yeah.
extent, yeah.
I
And I have done it before on my phone
okay. With
once
the same cutout pieces and stuff. Like
with the same pieces, but it had like, but it was only one, like it wasn't like flipped, whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. And then you also were struggling because you were kneeling, like you were
because I
crouched.
was squatting.
Yeah. And you said my calves are killing me.
They were.
And then you said I'm going to kill myself. I was like, oh damn.
Listen, it did not make me proud to caption that, but that's my truth, and I have to, show the world
It's
that,
this is a documentary of our experience. So
yeah, just me being like super like self-deprecating the whole time. Like, I have no shot at this. I'm letting someone down.
letting someone down. And then I really liked because I was watching and I was like very like, is she I mean, I knew you didn't do it, obviously, but like I was like, is she gonna do it? And then you walk out and you were like, well, it was just for an idol. And I was like, oh right. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, which is so funny because before I even went in, I was like, I like don't even want an idol.
Yeah.
But then once I was doing it, I was like, I need the idol.
Yeah, like you didn't I think you didn't need the idol. It would have been nice,
Well,
I guess,
it's good for
but
like a certain clutch like thing
yes,
that you might
it
need it for.
definitely is good to have for
Well,
sure.
my thought was like, now that I'm here, I might as well go
Of
for
course.
it, obviously. But like, because people are gonna like suspect if I have one anyway, so I might as well actually have it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was like, the last thing I want to do is play an idol like next round, and then for everyone to be like, oh, that move was so cool, like so good, like we gotta get her out because she just made this big move with the idol. So yeah, I was did
Yeah.
not want it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's ups and downs to that. I think that an idol is always best if you can. It's hard when you go to exile when you like know that an idol's on the table. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's different to like secretly find it and there's no reason for anyone to suspect you have it and then you can kind of like clutch pull
Hmm.
it out at like the final six or something. But like when people know you're trying for an idol, it's harder to dissuade that.
Yeah. I definitely like would have been fine if I had one.
Mhm.
Like if I needed it. But I didn't want to like rely on it. I think sometimes people get like too comfortable with idols. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? Like they're like, "Oh, I have an idol, like I don't even have to like really like, worry or like play the game that hard." And I felt like if I had one, I wouldn't have been like, laying the groundwork as much as I would have if I didn't have one.
Yeah, I think that you would have still been doing that, but I think that you're right that like people often are like the idol is the cure all. Like that's not. It's like that's not.
Hmm.
It's only and it's also only beneficial if you know how to use it properly. Like you
True.
still need to have a good read on the game. You can't just like
Hmm.
unless you're resigned to like oh the next round I'll just play it just to be safe or like I'll play it if I hear my name,
Yeah.
but it's like you might not hear your name because people are lying to
Yeah.
you, you know?
Right.
So it's not like the game isn't about like finding idols. It's like about so much more than that. The idols are just like a vehicle to help you,
Hmm.
subvert kind of what people are thinking you might do.
But yeah, so three people have gone to exile and we've all goose egged
Yeah.
it.
We'll see if that continues.
We'll see.
Yeah. But sorry to you.
It is what it is. I'm okay. I was so fucking dramatic
I
though.
was gonna say, are you gonna kill yourself, do you think?
Yeah. It's over for your
It's
girl.
over.
She didn't solve the fire puzzle in 15 minutes. She would have
It's
done it in 16 though.
it's been a while and you're still with us.
Oh. Well, I have to get these episodes
I was
out
gonna
and
say you are
then
waiting to finish the season and then
yeah.
yeah.
I want to leave you with a product
Hmm.
before I
Hmm.
go. Okay,
Hmm.
sorry, not to make such a
Yeah.
light
Yeah,
yeah, we
sorry.
probably shouldn't be joking about this.
Yeah.
Sorry to everyone that I have said that about myself. And we're gonna move on.
And we're moving forward.
And we're moving forward. So let's talk about the Aces dynamics.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The Ace
And
tribe is crazy, like no matter who's on it. They have an energy about them.
yeah. I mean,
And
obviously,
I I say that as a former Aces
oh,
member
we were
because
crazy
the
when we
vibe
were there for sure. Yeah, I mean, now Grant's there. He's always gonna add a layer of chaos, right?
you've got Grant and Steven on the same tribe. Good luck. The crazy is crazying.
Those two are just gonna.
I really did. I loved the editing you did for that one Grant confessional with the
I
like
it was
uh,
so fun because he just kept going. Like
yeah.
I cut out stuff too. Like
I'm
he
sure
just
you did.
kept, yeah, and I was like, I gotta do something with this. He's really
Yeah.
telling a story. It was great. Because the
I'm
conversations themselves, because a lot of this round was just the aces sitting in a circle,
mhm.
and I was like, the conversation itself is not that interesting, but thank you, Grant, for making it interesting. You
I will
know,
say something I did take away from it is that Ella continues to make people distrustful of her at every turn.
well, the way that she says things is always sus, even if she's telling the truth. Well,
Well,
let's just
say
say
let's just say I'm happy that
very happy with who stayed. Very, very reassuring, Ella. I'm sure everyone feels really comfortable with you right now.
Ella's trying not to be so vague challenge, so vague and cryptic.
Always, always cryptic. What what a woman.
It's so funny. Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, it just seems like there is a lot of animosity among the aces. Like nobody trusts anybody, even within the
Mm,
tribal. It's like
yeah.
Like the three Lady Luck are not really solidified. The five aces seem to think that they want to be solidified, but they also seem to not really want to work together. So it's kind of just
Yeah.
a bit of a disaster, honestly.
Right.
We'll see what happens when they have to go to tribal, if they do.
Yeah. And there's also like Boys Alliance, maybe?
The Boys Alliance, but then like immediately no. Like immediately Roos and GMAC are like, no, actually no. But I think they're keeping that in their back pocket.
Yes, for sure.
You
I
know,
mean, which makes sense,
which they should,
Keep
yeah.
keep your
Of
door
course.
open, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think
like once again, Roos and J-Back being iconic.
I was just gonna say I think that they are playing like they continue to play the best aces game on that side. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're in the middle. They're not really like showing their true
Mm-hmm.
colors or alliances to anybody but each other. They have each
Mm-hmm.
and I think they have the best like solid trust between each other than anybody has on that tribe. So
Yeah.
I think
Do
that's good.
do we rattle off every a thought on everyone right now on that tribe?
Um,
How they're playing?
yeah, we can.
Sure.
You start.
Okay, so Steven to me is feeling like the leader of the tribe.
I would agree. I think he's setting the culture
He
a
he's
bit.
a culture setter. But with that, I think he's being too loud.
Definitely. About what his
Um,
true feelings and goals are. And it's also like these people just got here. You know, I think he's like behaving kind of like I feel like it was more reasonable for him to be as vocal as he was with our original Aces tribe because we had a rapport. But
mhm,
these people like just got here and they also like already have preconceived notions about you and the rest of your tribe. So it's like maybe take a step back and let them give you a little bit before you
mhm,
start just like dictating what exactly this tribe looks like and is.
yeah, yeah. And Ella is kind of also like she's like mini leader
Yes. Well,
kind of
she's trying to
vibes.
like a sneaky way. She's trying to like secretly lead.
Yeah, but also being too loud
Definitely.
and like
I also
ominous.
she's always no, like she's always so ominous. And then Gabby, I noted, was like very forthcoming about her
Mm,
opinions about the other tribe to like to her Aces tribe, which I think is like valid because those were the people she was working with. So it's kind of fair for her to assume that the Aces were gonna stick together, even if like that's maybe not the case. But she came out the gate talking about how Grant needed to go,
that
which
and
is
also Roos and GMAC, which I think at this point you got to keep that
yeah, oh yeah.
tighten that lip. You have the numbers right now, girl. Shush.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that she was saying too much a little
Yeah,
bit,
we
which is
got
interesting. She was
some
playing
loud people.
she was playing a bit of a quiet game before the swap, but the second the
Hmm.
swap happened, she got a bit vocal. Um, but
Yeah,
I
I think the thing is she thinks that her and Ella are like
well,
right
that's what I
now.
was gonna say. This she wants to work with Ella, but she can't trust Ella because no one can trust Ella, and Ella trusts no one. So she's kind of like walking into a trap, really, with that Ella relationship. Even
Yeah,
though I think it would be really beneficial for Ella to actually try to work with Gabby in this circumstance.
yeah,
But
I
she's
do. I
like,
mean, keep your other options open
of
too, but
course.
like, yeah, you have someone being like, "Hey, I want to be with you," so
I think
like
she's
we
very
just said with Bruce and GMAC, like keep that open.
Yeah, I think that she's wary to work with someone that people are assuming that like she's worried about this like assumption of a duo kind of thing, like what happened in Survivor Scan. But I think that like I
Yeah,
think that if someone's gonna assume you're working with someone, you might as well actually work with them, is how
yeah,
I feel. Because you're gonna get the heat anyway. Same like so Bruce and GMAC, like they're getting the heat for working together, but at least they have each other, you know? Like people are gonna talk about it anyway. Like,
yeah. I feel like that was kind of my mentality with you, like a little bit. Like
yeah.
I was like, I'm keeping my distance, but we can also like kind
Well,
of,
it's like useless to like pretend like you're gonna throw them under the bus, like unless you vote them out like immediately, like the person that people are
mm,
that you might work with. Because if they're still around, people are gonna be making assumptions. And if you want to have
true.
any kind of working relationship on a tribe with them, like you might as well cash in on that kind of like trust that y'all
Yeah.
have from your personal relationship.
Okay, Vanessa and Liz. I feel like they're right now to me like synonymous.
Yes, I'd agree. I think they're doing a good job kind of trying to like see what the vibe is before they like make any commitments, you know? I think
Hmm.
that I think Liz is in danger because of like she is in danger in this episode because of her connection to Dom, but I think because Dom gets voted out this episode, she has an easier path
She has
forward
some wiggle room for
now
sure.
that he's gone. So I think that's good for her.
But yeah, I
Um
feel like
yeah,
they are doing a good job of being like non-threatening right now and just
I
being
would
like,
agree.
whoa, things are crazy. But I will say to Grant's point, they are sharing a little bit too much information.
Yes, yeah. I'd agree with that.
Especially like to GMAC. Why are you saying anything about Olivia?
That, yeah. Yeah, that was like I was like, oh. Of
Yeah,
course,
so
Mac, the chivalrous, asking why Olivia was voted out.
no, is what it is. Is that yeah, and I guess Grant is the last one.
Yeah, Grant, I mean, he has a good read on what's happening. He consistently has a huge threat level he has to try and work past. I think he's doing a decent job at making connections considering. I think that this boys alliance thing is a good idea for him.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Uh
mean he's really like putting in the groundwork right now. Like
yeah.
he knows he's in a bad spot and he's like if we're saying anything, we're saying make it happen. Get out there and go. And that is what Grant is doing.
He is.
And
He's really good
and
at the
I
game.
tip my hat to you.
He was very good at the tribe game and scan. He is good at making connections and he's good at talking himself out of sticky situations most of the time. So,
Okay.
for
So
you.
that's that. Um yeah. So anything else with the Lady Luck?
Well,
I feel like we talked a lot about that. But
I
I
just
feel like
think that
see yeah, go ahead.
I just think Max is doing a good job spreading the word low key about the Dom thing.
Of
Me and
course.
him
We
kind of
totally didn't even
linked.
talk about it.
We linked and created on Dom being the name that we thought was best, and he really kind of got out there and boots on the ground, spread the
And
word.
he made it happen.
But I do think he's playing a bit loud now, is the only thing. I think he's perhaps putting a big target on his back. He could be seen as spearheading the Dom vote, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I think I was talking about this last episode. Like, you never want, and not that you don't ever want to make it seem like it's your
Mhm.
idea, but you have to be really strategic about when you're claiming a move
Yeah.
because it can definitely come back to bite you. Like, cool, you're making a move, but maybe make it seem like it's more of a collaboration.
Right. Like that was sort of my thought with the conversation with Max. And I don't know how much he was thinking about Dom before we talked because I was like, me and him's conversation that's in this episode is like the very first conversation I think both of us had after the
Hmm.
challenge. So like I really wanted Dom, no question, to be the one to go. So I feel like I was kind of trying to like nudge Max to see if he would be open to Dom and then kind of
Yeah,
let him be talking about it.
yeah.
And
I think the issue is your conversation was fine, but
mhm,
then he goes and he's pitching it to Allie and CJ, whereas he should have been like, "Oh, Jess and I talked and like we talked about
right,
this." So then it's like, "Oh, okay, so this is an idea, not
right.
just like Max is like the one, presenting this."
And by default, I am now benefiting from Max being the one who is the mouthpiece about this Dom
Exactly.
thing because I'm able to have had equal say in what the move was and I get what I want, but I don't have to be the one who's running around talking about it.
Yeah.
So
All
that's
right.
that's always a nice thing.
Always.
I think it's interesting that Allie and CJ ultimately do get to decide if it's going to be me or Dom. Um, and I'm
Also,
kind of
interesting that Joe was thinking about maybe not flipping for a second. I thought that was interesting.
Wait, when did he say that? I think I
You
missed.
didn't you didn't
When
see that?
was
He made a separate confessional after Allie and him talking. He was like, I'm definitely flipping. He's like, oh, is this gonna like reveal my cards too soon? I have to decide if I'm gonna vote out Jess or actually Dom.
Yeah, I guess that didn't surprise me just because he is like to me just a complete wild card. Like I just like would never have assumed that he was in one particular spot, but obviously his exile situation leads us all to believe that it would make most sense for him to flip.
Yeah.
But
But it's also like you already said, I mean, it's probably why he ended up going with it, but like you already spilled everything to Allie, so like you're kind of committed to doing this flip.
yeah. Yeah, no, he totally told me like everything about and obviously
Hmm.
like if I go, like if he decides to vote me out, that's not such a big deal, but like I also like he very much had this air about him that he was gonna like completely go on a rampage against
Yeah.
the Lady Luck tribe. So it is interesting. I was more surprised that Allie had considered voting for me just because again, I think
Mm.
it benefits her to keep me. Um, and I don't know how much of a consideration that was for her, but
Yeah.
for me, it just was
Yeah.
like, and I say it in my confessional too, like, I just simply did not have a working relationship with Dom. Like, there was no, we didn't even have a conversation because we clearly were talking about each other. So it was like a no brainer to me that like, I just saw a path forward working with everybody else besides him so much clearer. And I think that that kind of is probably what it came down to for someone like Allie, who has probably a more likelihood of me working with her versus Dom working with her.
Yeah. That's fair. Also, can I just say,
Hmm.
Exile after the challenge, so ass.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because you just sit, because there's no searching for anything. So you're like, okay,
Yeah,
all the idols are just, in
yeah.
these challenges, and you just sit there and do
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, you got to talk to cameraman Nick, right?
Well, yes, obviously, okay, behind the scenes, little peek. Nick was filming me, and he's my buddy, so we did like just like talk, whatever. But I'm thinking about the fact that he was there with like literally no one to talk to for like more time than me, and I'm like, oh boy, that must have been
Yeah.
brutal. It really was exile. Um,
Well, I'm
so
glad you
yeah,
felt it.
I did, yeah. But that's really it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I don't really have anything else to say.
All
We
right.
just no.
I just wait. Dom Dom is saying that he can't make it, but his team sent in a video. Okay. They said okay. Let's see what that's about.
Okay.
I will not be bantering with the hosts or appearing in the typical format as this podcast viewers have become accustomed to. Instead, I have a statement that me and an attorney have prepared, so I will stick to this instead. It is with deep regret, but absolutely no surprise, that I must once again address the blatant, systematic discrimination against players named Dominic in this so called Survivor game. For years, we have watched as contestants bearing this noble name have been ruthlessly and suspiciously eliminated at the earliest possible opportunity. First out. First out. And now, how generous. Third out. The pattern is undeniable and the bias is clear. This is not just bad luck, this is nameism. Let me be clear. I'm not pointing fingers at any one individual. This is a structural issue, long standing, and it runs deep within the very foundation of this game. That said, if I were one who was inclined to scrutinize the actions of certain individuals, one might find that Jess Holt is particularly sketchy, but again, I'm not here to accuse, I am here to seek justice. To ensure true fairness moving forward, I am calling for immediate action. The 2025 Survivor season must include an overwhelming abundance of Dominics. Not one, not two, but a truly representative sample. If the previous years have shown anything, it's that one Dominic is simply not enough to withstand the systemic forces working against us. Only through a sea of Dominics can we begin to undo the years of injustice and restore integrity to this game.
Okay. Interesting.
Um, sorry, not to make light of such a serious situation. Thank
Yeah,
you
okay,
so much
yeah. I'm
for
holding
your
space for
feedback.
what he said. I mean, I wasn't involved in this, so Jess, like, do you have anything to say?
I guess, I mean, I think I do have to come to grips with my own actions. I have been behind two of the Dominic evictions, pretty heavily, I would say. And yeah, I'm deeply sorry. You did have to go. It was you or me. But as we move forward, I think thank you for your feedback, Dom, about the way we could improve this for Dominic's to come.
So I feel like our hands are tied now. Next season is Survivor Dominic.
We'll be doing 50% Dominic's.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's our DEI pledge.
yeah.
I'm
Next
sorry.
any.
Again, not at fault here. So kind of really fucked up of you guys, gonna be honest, but
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
I would not have done that.
I didn't realize, like, I didn't even realize the nameism was
Yeah.
happening.
How could
Sometimes
you not?
sometimes
I
we're
would have
to our
I
own
would have
act.
never voted out Dominic. And you can put my name on that.
Oh, interesting, because like about 30 minutes ago, you did say Dom going was your best path forward, but I guess that has changed since you learned about the nameism allegations.
I don't know what you're referring to.
She's gonna edit it out. People hold her accountable. She said it. I have her on record.
You cannot prove it.
Anyway,
Um,
well,
Anywho,
without Dom here, we do have to still pick our silly goose and our
we
MVP.
sure do.
Unfortunately, we will not have his input on this. But
Devastating.
talk about it.
I have a
Do
feeling he would have picked you for Silly Goose, though. Um,
obviously.
okay, so let's start with our MVP. All right.
Uh,
I feel like let's work from the aces first. I still think our boys, Roos and GMAC are laying down some good work here.
yes, I would agree. They're definitely in the best position on the aces. I think alternatively, Grant is in the best position of the original Lady Luck who has transferred to the aces because he's actually kind of making headway in integrating himself into the tribe pretty
Yeah.
well, despite his personal feelings about what people
Yeah.
are doing wrong. So
I
that
I will also say, I don't think necessarily the MVP is just whoever's in the best position.
yeah, no, for
I
sure.
think because he is in a bad position,
Yes.
I think that makes his gameplay this episode a little more impressive to me.
Which is why I brought it up.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Because
I
I
agree.
because I agree. I think that being able to handle the circumstances you're given is just as impressive as being in a good position,
Right.
a position of power, if you will.
And we've discussed that this episode is about adaptability
Certainly.
and our boys being adaptable. Okay.
Hmm.
So the Lady Luck, who is our MVP?
Um, I would say I think Max is making really good connections with the original Aces tribe, which I think is the biggest thing to take away with from
Mm-hmm.
this is his he's making it so that this tribe lines thing isn't just gonna like kind of keep going until until it can't go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
His willingness to work with the original Aces has made it so that
Yeah,
the game has completely shifted and the alliances are new. So
absolutely.
I thought that was worth mentioning. And he was very instrumental in getting the word out about the Dom vote. And I think he probably convinced Allie and CJ to stick to the Dominic uh
Yeah.
vote out.
And if we're talking about adaptability, I feel like Max is like the representative of
Yes.
that for this episode because he
Yes.
kind of knew where that was going. He knew he wasn't on the top of that alliance anyway. And like his buddy Vanessa was not being protected. And makes those bonds with people that, in some people's minds would not have happened because you have the numbers, why try to talk to other people from the other tribe? So
Like
in my mind that's who it should be.
I would agree. I think that you're right because especially the fact that because you were at exile, Lady Luck had the numbers. It would have been super super easy for him to just vote for me or someone else from the Aces, but instead he wanted to put himself in a better position and he knew that he was in a better
Yeah,
position actually because I'm the other name. We had a good conversation. He saw a path forward working with me and thought it was valuable to keep me around rather than someone like Dom who wasn't valuing him as part of his alliance. And he also um he also recognized his mistakes from the past season from Survivor Scan and how he went with the flow a bit too much and he realized that he needed to actually kind of make it happen, as you might say. Make things happen on his own, not just expect them to kind of happen for him and like shift the way he wants them to without action. So that was also most improved, one could say.
are we
Are we
doing
agreeing?
it?
Yeah, yep.
Why does this look so jacked up?
It does. I have a couple of them
Wait, oh my God, sorry Max, we need to make this better for you. That's no, you can't
they're
have
really
that.
cheap earrings.
There we go. Woo! Max episode MVP.
Hey.
Let's go.
Oh,
And now we turn to a more serious note here. The
mhm,
silly goose of the day.
correct.
Who are you nominating?
Okay, well, this is not a formal nomination, but I did forget to mention something silly that somebody did, which was
Oh,
that Allie, in the very first conversation she has with Max comes up to her and is like, "Hey," and Allie's like, "Are you distrustful of me?"
smooth, Allie.
Really cool, really good.
You're playing it really
Good job,
cool.
good job, good job.
He's not going to be suspicious of you now.
Oh no, 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 no. You don't
He
understand.
literally was like, no. Wait,
Yeah,
should
he
I
was like, why would
be?
yeah, he was like, should I be?
Wait, I wasn't until you said that.
Anyway, I don't think she should be the silly goose of the day, but that
No,
was
I
a
don't think so, but
funny,
that it's a
funny,
funny.
that's funny. Here, I'm gonna say a hot take
Oh.
for silly goose. I don't know if this should be the silly goose, but I do want to talk about them. I think I
Hmm.
was unimpressed with Caroline's inability to slither her way into being on the right side of the vote because that is something that she is often very good at. And again, I think that this is a case of us holding Caroline to a high standard because she's a very
Sure.
good player.
Yes.
But I do think that she could have done more to get in the good graces of me and the other aces to get on the right side of the vote. She was presenting as someone who was very loyal to Dom, and we didn't want to bring her in because we thought that she would tell. And we were
Hmm.
unaware of the kind of tribe dynamics and the fact that she was a bit on the outs with Dom originally because she was presenting as very aligned with
Yeah.
him.
Right.
So
And to be fair, I mean, I've seen all the footage. She spent a lot of that round with Dom.
mhm.
So I can
I
see,
hardly talked to her.
yeah.
I like didn't really have any conversations with her. So I
And
would have
Allie and CJ.
I would have
She
expected her to do a bit more work to kind of like either spin it her way or just get on the right side of the boat. So that was just I don't know if she should be the silly goose, but
I
that was my
don't think so. It's kind of hard. I feel like it's maybe someone from the Aces. I don't think
I
anyone
think so.
like
I think
inherently misplayed on the Lady Luck.
I was gonna say I think the Lady Luck tribe actually has their shit together a bit. And the
Hmm.
apes are a bit they're just very unorganized because they haven't gone to tribal yet. So I think it would maybe lead to I always have a hard time, I will say, doing Silly Goose and MVP on the tribe that doesn't go to tribal because there's just so much more gameplay happening on the tribe that
Sure.
goes to tribal. But
Yeah.
agree. I think that we can talk about the aces for the silly goose. What do you think?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of contenders.
Hmm.
I feel like you can make an argument for almost anyone except for Rus and GMAC, to
Yeah.
be honest. Um, I feel like, oh man, this is tough because there's not a lot of footage of it,
Can I say
of them. Yes,
what I'm thinking?
sure.
My instinct based on our conversation is Ella.
Hmm.
Um, Primarily because her missteps were documented with such gratuity by Grant. So I think that that helps narrow it down a bit to her. And I think that the stuff that Grant was saying about her is emblematic of a lot of the missteps she's been making in the game in general. So I think that that would be potentially a good option for Silly Goose.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay.
Do you want
Yeah.
to talk about anyone
I
else or no?
mean, I think again, there's not a lot of footage of them, but I
Yeah.
think the Liz and Vanessa just saying too much is
Yeah.
a part of that. And then Gabby kind of putting her foot in her
Oh
mouth
yeah,
about
Gabby too, for sure.
Rus and GMAC. I'm having
Yeah.
a tough time with this.
I want you to make the final call because
Oh,
you've
oh,
seen the you've seen more footage than I have. The Aces don't have a lot of footage happening, so
um, I think geez. This is hard. So many silly who is the
we just make
most
the
silly
entire tribe the
who is
we
the
did that.
silliest goose, really? Because you're all silly geese.
Well, remember we made the entire Dolls tribe silly geese that one time. We could just make the
But
Aces
like
the
I don't think they're equally, I don't
no.
know.
Well, who's
Oh
gonna
my
drink
God.
it?
Okay, drink your silly goose juice and see if it manifests.
No, you have to decide.
Oh, okay. All right. Ah! Okay. All right, I've made my decision.
Hmm.
It is not Liz and Vanessa.
Okay.
So it comes down to Ella and Gabby.
Is Steven not in contention at all for this?
Not this episode.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to check.
And don't put another name on the table because it'll make it more confusing.
Okay.
So the answer is, here we go. It's both of them.
I do think that they're silly in very
Oh,
similar ways.
oh. Also shout out
Silly
to
goose.
the random TikTok shop that I saw that had these. We got these for traders. We did not film it, I'm so sorry. Um we did a little traders party and it was really fun. And these were the shields and it was a
But
really good time.
now they are the badge of silly goose of the day.
It is now the silly goose of the day. Because they're
And
so
I do think
cute.
that this is good because I think that Gabby and Ella are silly in very similar complementary ways. And I
Yeah,
think they should be honored as such.
for sure. Man, what what a time. Might I
All
say, I mean, I know this is not the Traders podcast, but Nick was a trader, the one who went out quick. He did a good job.
he did a good job being a traitor.
Great job. And
Yep.
that's all I have to say. Maybe we'll see that side of him come out a different season,
Maybe.
maybe. We'll see. I think that's all I got to say. Yeah.
Yep.
We got a new episode coming out next week. How
Yes.
will the impacts of Dom leaving, Caroline being out of the vote happen next week? Really fun stuff. With that, the mams are signing